Where are you going?
That's not what I asked.
Hey guys, welcome back to, well, not welcome back, but this is our 4th edition of JCFilms Live, and we've got a treat for you on this edition. Hey, today we're going to be talking about, a lot of times we get calls from people. Big part of what we do at JCFilms is people write books, their stories, and put them in book form, and we take those and put them into film form. And one of the most successful ones we did was a book out of Massachusetts called A Promise to Astrid. And then we've got Michael Tourville here on our 4th edition of JCFilms Live. He is a huge friend to our ministry, and just glad you're here, Mike.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you having me on.
He got 1 minute warning.
I did. I just had to get dressed, that's all.
I did ask him, you got clothes on? He did.
Yeah.
But you wrote a book called A Promise to Astrid. Tell the audience, tell people a little bit about the book, because it's such a wonderful story. Go for it, brother.
Sure. Thank you, Jason. And yeah, it was one of those stories that I carried with me for a long time. And honestly, I was a little embarrassed about it. You know, here I was in my mid to late 20s, and this 80-year-old woman who, you know, 80-year-old seemed old when I was 27. It's not so old anymore. But at the time, she helped us out. We were a struggling young family, and she helped us out in ways that were somewhat mysterious. I mean, you know, and at the time when all these events were happening, it overwhelmed us. And then Astrid passed away. Not to give anything away, but she passed away. But upon reflection of this whole story and all the things that happened, I just knew I had to write it down someday. And so 20 years later, I wrote it down, and it was a work of passion, really, because I just wanted to get it right. And it wasn't for any big publishing purposes. It was really just for my family at the time. And then I got some feedback saying, my gosh, that's such a wonderful story. You really ought to do something more with it.
And it's just a beautiful film, a beautiful story. I still get people that call me and say, I just watched that film and it really touched me. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it's worth watching. It's worth going to Amazon and looking at that film, A Promise to Astrid. And you know, the relationship between you and I and the Massachusetts group is just continue to grow with other projects and other films. But
yeah. And you know, it's funny how one little thing leads to another. And you know, I wrote this little book about Astrid, and from its tiny beginnings, how other things come up. And I think about the friends that we've made. I think about the people whose Astrid touched in different ways. And I think about how that led to the Jack Jonah movie, and how it led to all the friendships of the people who got involved with the Jack Jonah movie, and now the Agawam Producers Club. So all these things that come from a small seed, and it's actually part of Astrid's legacy too, right? I mean, she just started off small, and look at all the things that come from one tiny little gesture. And that's really all it starts with, you know? Yeah.
Hey, we've got a segment on the program we call Prop Quiz. So this episode, it's kind of close to home to Mike Tourville, but here's our prop. It was used in one of our films. It's an envelope. It says Tourville on it. That's probably a dead giveaway, but inside is a wad of cash. It's exactly $1,751, not a penny more, not a penny less. But this prop was used in a film, not the cash. My wife just gave me that, but this prop was used in a film. And if you can guess and you know what film it's in, just write it underneath here, put the name of the film, say, Jason, I know what film that's in. It's this. We're going to put your name in a drawing. And at the end of the month, we're going to pick a name, and that name is going to get a speaking part in one of our upcoming films. So we're excited about that. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here. Hey, one last thing. Can you tell us one thing about Astrid that is not in the book and not in the movie? It's just something else that you can think about her life that we never captured we may have been in the book, but maybe not in the movie.
Well, yeah, she came here. Yeah, it may not have been in the slightly in the book, but certainly not in the movie, is Astrid came from Norway when she was a teenager. And she helped, and she had a series of different jobs, and she ended up working for a family called the Diebold, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but the locksmith family. She became a caretaker for the Diebold family in New York, and she met her husband Dominic, and from there they traveled all over the world. They lived in Japan, they lived in Australia, they lived in Europe, and then find their way back to, of all places, Chicopee, Massachusetts. But she traveled the world. She was a poet and she was an artist as well. So she was just had a lot of imagination in her and just very inspired by so many things. But yeah, from a little teenage girl coming over on a boat from Norway without much to her name, and then look at the influence that she's made all over. So it's hard to imagine, again, going back to the little things, but I just think about a 16-year-old coming on a boat, not knowing where she's going, and then finding that her lasting legacy touches so many lives.
Yeah. So Mike, you have, of course, you've written A Promise to Astrid, and you didn't stop there. You continue to keep writing. So what have you finished now, and what are you working on in the future?
Well, right now, the last book is Voices from the Fallen, which is a completely different story than Astrid. I mean, this is 8 true stories, and it has to do with addiction, whether it's alcohol or drug addiction in Western Massachusetts. It shows 8 different stories about the effects, the outcomes of how it affected 8 different families in Western Massachusetts. Very emotional book.
Well, I want to thank Mike Tourville for being on our 4th edition of JCFilms Live. Those that are interested in JCFilms and are following us, just this segment coming into is called Just What's Happening. So those in Central Florida area, on February 4th, the Orlando Production Club is having basically their first fundraiser. They're showing the film Chosen. That's going to be in Kissimmee. Go to the website to learn more about that. The next day, February 5th, the Jacksonville Production Club is holding its first workshop training session. I'll be there. Excited about being there in Jacksonville. We've got a lot of people lined up for that. The next day is February 6th. On February 6th, we're going to be in Tampa, working on a workshop there called Don't Get Caught Acting. That's one of the things Dean Cain says a lot. Just whenever you're on camera, just don't get caught acting. So acting really isn't acting. So that's a workshop we're doing on February 6th in Tampa. On the 12th of February, we start another production club in Atlanta, Georgia. We're excited about that. You know, that's kind of the new hub for films right now, so we're excited about putting the faith and family element there. February 19th, we have auditions for a new film called Miracle at Manchester. That's in San Diego, California. You can get more information about that. Dean Cain's going to be with us during the day, during the audition, so come down and be a part of that. So these are just several ways you can get involved with JCFilms. Thank you, guys.
Promise?
Promise.
I promise. I promise.
I promise. I promise.
It's been a busy day.